Did you know that up to 78% of the air we breathe is nitrogen, an essential element for life, but most plants can't use it directly from the air? Strange, right? But let's break it down. Picture the nitrogen cycle as a grand relay race. The baton? That's our nitrogen molecule. It's always on the move, being passed from one runner to another. But who are these runners? And where is this race taking place? The race kicks off in the atmosphere, where nitrogen gas exists as a pair of nitrogen atoms, bound together so tightly that most plants can't separate them. This is where our first runner comes in, certain bacteria. These bacteria are like the magicians of the nitrogen cycle. They have the unique ability to fix nitrogen, breaking apart those tightly bound atoms and converting nitrogen gas into a form that plants can use. Once fixed, the nitrogen is absorbed by the plant roots in the soil. This is the second handoff in the relay. The plants use this nitrogen to build proteins, which are vital for their growth. But the race doesn't stop there. When animals eat the plants, the nitrogen is passed on once again, this time into the animal's body. And when the animal or plant dies, decomposers in the soil break down the organic matter, releasing the nitrogen back into the soil. Finally, other types of bacteria in the soil convert this nitrogen back to its original form, nitrogen gas, and release it back into the atmosphere. This is the final handoff, completing the relay and closing the loop of the nitrogen cycle. And that's the secret life of nitrogen. It's a tireless runner in the most important race on Earth, constantly being passed from the atmosphere to the soil to plants and back again. Now, you may ask, where does composting come into all this? Well, imagine composting as a bustling city where waste gets transformed into valuable resources. Composting, in essence, is a natural process that turns organic waste into a nutrient-rich soil conditioner. It's a bit like the city's waste management system, where what's considered garbage is actually a treasure in disguise. Just as your city collects and processes various types of waste, your compost pile does the same with organic waste. This could be anything from your kitchen scraps, like fruit peels and coffee grounds, to yard waste, like leaves and grass clippings. These are like the city's garbage that gets transformed into valuable compost, similar to how waste is recycled into usable goods. Within this compost city, there's a whole workforce of microorganisms, including bacteria and fungi, that break down the organic waste. They are the city's workers, laboring tirelessly to transform waste into a valuable resource. They do this by eating the waste, breaking it down, and excreting it as nutrient-rich compost. This compost is a goldmine for your garden, providing a slow-release source of nutrients that plants need to grow. One of these key nutrients is nitrogen, an essential component of proteins and DNA, which plants need in large amounts to grow and reproduce. Remember the nitrogen cycle we discussed earlier? Well, composting fits right into that. The microorganisms in compost convert nitrogen from the air and the organic waste into a form that plants can use. This process is called nitrogen fixation, and it's a crucial part of the nitrogen cycle. So you see, composting is not just about reducing waste or recycling. It's an essential part of the nitrogen cycle, helping to replenish the soil's nitrogen supply and making it available to plants. It's a beautiful cycle of life that starts with waste and ends with lush, productive plants. So, composting is like a city's recycling program, turning waste into a valuable resource that enriches the soil and helps plants grow. So how can you get started with composting? It's as easy as making a sandwich. Just like a delicious sandwich, composting requires a balance of ingredients, or in this case, a mix of greens and browns. Greens are your nitrogen-rich materials like vegetable scraps, coffee grounds, and fresh grass clippings. Browns, on the other hand, are your carbon-rich materials like dried leaves, straw, and paper. Now, let's start building our compost sandwich. The first layer, or the bread of our compost sandwich, should be browns. Start with a layer of twigs or straw at the bottom of your compost bin or pile. This allows for good air circulation at the base of the compost. Next comes a layer of greens, the lettuce of our sandwich. This is where you add your kitchen scraps. But remember, not all kitchen waste is compost friendly. Avoid meat, dairy, and oily foods as they can attract pests and create unpleasant odors. Also, larger items should be chopped into smaller pieces to speed up the decomposition process. Now add another layer of browns, the cheese of our sandwich. This will help balance the nitrogen from the greens with carbon, aiding in the decomposition process while also controlling odors. Continue this layering process, alternating between greens and browns, until your compost pile is about 3 feet high. Just like making a sandwich, the order of the layers isn't crucial, but having a balanced mix of greens and browns is. Now, I know what you're thinking. Is that it? Well, not quite. Composting is a bit more involved than making a sandwich. It's not just a matter of piling things up and forgetting about them. Your compost pile needs care and attention, just like a garden. Every few weeks, give your compost pile a good turn. This mixes up the materials, helping them break down faster while also adding much-needed oxygen. It's a bit like stirring the ingredients of your sandwich together, ensuring that every bite is delicious. And finally, there's water. Your compost peelie should be as damp as a wrung-out sponge. If it's too dry, the materials won't break down properly. And if it's too wet, it can become smelly and slimy. So pay attention to the moisture levels and add water or dry materials as needed. Remember, composting is not a speedy process. It can take anywhere from 2 months to a year for your compost pile to fully break down, depending on the materials you use and the conditions of your compost pile. But trust me, the wait is worth it. The end result is a rich, crumbly compost that your plants will adore. So, making compost is as simple as making a sandwich, layering greens and browns until you have a delicious mix that your garden will love. But why should you bother with composting? Well, it's like giving your garden a gourmet meal instead of fast food. Composting offers a plethora of benefits, not only for your garden, but also for the environment and you as a gardener. It's like choosing a balanced, nutritious meal for your plants over a quick, nutrient-poor fast food option. Firstly, let's talk about your garden. Composting enriches the soil by improving its structure, texture, and aeration, and increasing its moisture retention. Plants love this. It's like being served a 5-course meal instead of a greasy burger. Compost feeds your plants slowly, releasing a smorgasbord of nutrients over time. Goodbye artificial fertilizers. Next, the environment. Composting is a fantastic way to recycle kitchen and yard waste, which makes up about 30% of what we throw away. By composting, we're reducing the amount of waste sent to landfills and, in turn, the production of harmful greenhouse gases. It's a win-win situation. And what about you, the gardener? Composting is cost-effective. You're essentially making your own organic, high-quality fertilizer. No more trips to the garden center for expensive soil amendments. Plus, the physical act of composting can be a fulfilling, therapeutic activity. In the long run, composting helps to sustain the soil's fertility, promoting healthier plant growth and reducing the need for chemical fertilizers and pesticides. This leads to more productive harvests and more beautiful gardens. And let's not forget the critters. Composting encourages the presence of beneficial insects and worms in your garden. These little helpers break down the compost further, improving soil fertility and structure. So, in essence, composting is an all-around champion. It's an act of respect towards the environment, a gift to your garden, and a boon for your gardening journey. By choosing to compost, you're choosing to nourish your garden with the best nature has to offer. So, feeding your garden with compost is like choosing a gourmet meal over fast food. It's healthier, tastier, and your plants will thank you for it. Are you ready to start composting and see the difference in your garden? Composting is a natural and sustainable way to enrich your garden soil. And the best part is, you can start right now. Here's a challenge for you. Over the next few months, dedicate a small part of your garden to composting. Begin by collecting kitchen scraps like vegetable peels, coffee grounds, and eggshells. Layer these with green waste like grass clippings and dried leaves. Over time, you'll see these materials transform into a rich, earthy substance. As your compost matures, look for changes in your garden. You might notice your plants are healthier, your soil is more fertile, and your garden is thriving in ways it never did before. Embracing composting is embracing a cycle of life that benefits not only your garden, but also the environment. Remember, starting your compost pile is like embarking on a journey. It may take some time to get there, but the rewards are well worth the effort.